Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Let us start our class with a multi-tab recitation, Al-Fatiha. So, as I promised you last week, I'm going to record for week 1 and week 2. Don't worry, this is going to be short, but even though it is short, it has a lots of things or dimensions that you need to think of. Okay, when I said about dimensions, it means the criteria or the content related to philosophy, and some of the jargon words that you might not be familiar with it before, with them before. Okay, so let's straight away go to the our discussions for today, for our lecture today. Okay, when it comes to philosophical foundations of curriculum, before I go further into the discussing the curriculum model, which has some, I think if I'm not mistaken, has a 3 Taylor model, half Taylor model. Okay, maybe some of you are already familiar with this name or not. Okay, that's fine, don't worry, I'm going to explain it later on to you. Okay, let us understand the role of philosophy first. Okay, what is philosophy? That's the first question that you need to understand. Philosophy basically is the study of the fundamental nature of any knowledge, okay, and the reality and its existence. There are some more questions to understand the reality and existence. For example, in one of the famous book that I used to read when I was a teenager, ماذا يعني في الانتماء الإسلام? What does it mean for me to become a Muslim? Usually, the author actually, the Fatih Khan, the name of the author is Fatih Khan, and he mentioned that there are 3 questions that human always asks when it comes to understand the reality and the existence. The first one is, who am I? Okay, what I am. Okay, why I am here. I mean, why do we exist in this world? For what purpose? What is the directions? Where am I going to after I die? Or is there a life after I die? These are the questions that is related to the reality and the existence. Basically, which is a study of the philosophy, yeah, right? So the other meanings of philosophy we can understand as something that is related to wisdom. So it is an activity that human involved when they try to seek understandings of the fundamental questions or truths about ourselves, related to this world, related to the hereafter, perhaps, or related to relationships or connections, human to humans, humans to animal, humans to things, humans to the universe, this kind of stuff. So I could say that those amongst the non-Muslims, they slightly have a different philosophy than us, the way we think differently, because the way that we see, we understand things are different. Okay, that is the meaning of the philosophy. So the next question is, what do actually use this philosophy for? Okay, philosophy actually help us to develop critical thinking based on the questions that I addressed just now from the book of Fatih Khan wrote. What does it mean for me to become a Muslim, right? So it makes us to make a lots of analysis of our own life, of our own perspective towards life, of our own understandings of how religions permits or enter our life. Okay, And then now the examples that I can give related to the philosophy is a set of a standard of a belief. Alright. Okay, regardless of that, the definitions of philosophy, okay, how does that related to the philosophical foundations of the curriculum? Alright. Basically, it actually helps us to transform the way we view the world, leading the way that we interact to each other. In this topic, actually, it helps us to understand how we view the educations or the curriculum itself based on our own philosophy. Let's say that you have a specific philosophy, and then you have you understand specific curriculum, and you interact with that curriculum in the field of your own education in your country, for example. So then you have a set of a perspective that makes you different than those who are not in your system, those who do not come from your culture or your society. For example, I might not understand education systems that exist in Somalia or in Algeria or Indonesia because I'm not from there. Because I don't actually have the specific way or the experience that like three of you have. So that actually makes me interact with the system differently than you yourself. You understand that? Okay. So when it comes to this class, philosophy is not purely metaphysics and logics, okay? Because philosophy has a lot of elements related to metaphysics and logics, but actually this course actually help you to understand or aim you to lead to develop how to. So it is more on practical, realistic elements of understanding. So you could see on how to solve certain kinds of problems that is related to the curriculum based on having this, based on attending or sitting in my class. And then it actually helps you to establish an understanding of how to implement policy. And how's that happen? What does it has to do policy? What does it policy has to do with philosophy and the curriculum? Okay, that's why I ask you this kind of questions. Okay, and I want you to answer these questions. How philosophy actually could lead to the pedagogical elements of a policy implementations. Okay, for these questions, I would like Ben Amir, since you did not come to my class last week. Okay, could you answer these questions? All right. How does actually philosophy could lead us to understand the pedagogical implementations of a policy? Okay, perhaps you guys could not understand what do I mean by pedagogical elements, all right? Pedagogical element actually has three elements. First, it is a curriculum. So house philosophy could lead to the curriculum of the implementations, policy implementations. The number two, pedagogical elements can be methods. How does philosophy actually can lead to the methods of teaching or methods of the policy implementations? And number three, pedagogical elements can be in terms of techniques. Techniques that actually could address the cognitive perspective. Cognitive actually means more on the thinking. Alright. So I hope I'm quite clear in terms of that. Okay. Alright. So the next thing that I want you to look at is could you give examples of educational policy in your country that has connections to philosophy or perhaps to your own philosophy? Okay, could Abdul Salam and Helvi please answer these questions? Okay, when I address Ben Amir, Abdul Salam, and Elvi to answer these questions. Actually, I want you to give the answers in the comment section in the YouTube, because I upload this in the YouTube. Alright, so basically, when you answer my question, I want you to show how that philosophy, whatever philosophy that you have there, or your own understanding of your own philosophy, is connected to the philosophy that you mentioned just now, or the examples that you gave. Okay, I give examples here in Malaysia. Okay, in Malaysia, it has a dualism in its educational philosophy. What I mean by dualism is that it has a secular elements when it comes to schooling, but at the same time, it has some religious elements to the schooling experience of our students here. Okay, for example, from 8 to 5, okay, students have to attend schools, like normal daily schools, right? And the religion is integrated. As a Muslim, Islamic religion is integrated within the schooling experience itself. For example, the schools allow the students to start their lessons with dua, all right, like what we did in the first 10 minutes before we start our class. There are actually a religious teaching being taught at schools. For example, we have Islamic education subjects, and the teaching of the religions happens in schools. Okay, in comparison with American education systems, teaching of a religion is not allowed at all at schools. So it is against the federal policy there. So you understand that. Uh, so for me, it is normal because I'm a Muslim. Actually, you are a Muslim 24/7. Okay, you are always a Muslim. And it's okay to integrate the elements of religion into that. But what about those who are not Muslims that attended schools here? For example, maybe you have a person migrated from the US and come to schools here, and then the students realize, or the parents realize that, oh, okay, actually, the schools here try to implement this Islamic religion practices into some parts of the student's life. So that can actually can create tensions there between the parents and school. I mean, the parents that just migrated from the US to here, if she or he is not a Muslim. Okay, so for us, because for me, for Malaysians, I could understand that because I'm from there. I have this fixed our own understanding worldview of understandings towards Islamic religion philosophy and how it is connected to the daily educations of the kids here. But for those who come from the US or from a secular country or that has a secular upbringing, it is very difficult for them to understand that, to the extent that they start to argue, start to complain a lot. Okay, does it make sense? Okay, that's why I want you to give the examples of educational policy in your country that has connection to philosophy. It can be anything, it can be any examples, alright? So, Abdul Salam and Yavi, this is your task. Okay, and when you explain, I want you to show how the philosophy is connected to the philosophy that you mentioned. Okay, how the philosophy is connected to the philosophy that you mentioned. So basically, through this philosophy, it is hoped that it could provide the best or clearest understanding of any issues that become your concern. Okay, so basically, that's the functions of a philosophy. All right. Okay, let's move on to the next. Okay, philosophies and theories of knowledge. So basically, okay, in its purest sense, philosophy actually helps to reform pedagogical practices that I mentioned that. I mentioned again, there are three things there, curriculum. When it comes to pedagogical practices, there are three. The first one is curriculum, the second one is method, the third one is technique. Okay, this is what I meant by the pedagogical practices. Okay, So, for example, I give example. Perhaps some people understand that philosophy is basically maybe usually discuss the structure of educations, but when it comes to philosophical foundations of curriculum, okay, now you can understand. Now you can understand. Then you can make connections that basically philosophy and philosophical foundations of curriculum does not actually discuss on structure of educations only, but it can go to the educations of the citizen. Because of what? Because of the elements of the pedagogical practices that I mentioned just now. Okay, and philosophy usually will discuss about metaphysical aspects of education, which is the theory of reality, and we will discuss the theory of reality and the epistemology of the reality. The epistemology of the knowledge itself. But due to the understanding that it need to incorporate pedagogical practices, so the discussions will extend to actually provide the models for inquiry. And from these models of inquiry, it will actually lead you to develop a set of standards. Okay, right? I hope you understand that. If you don't understand, you are free to ask me questions here to the WhatsApp group. Let's say that if philosophy is basically a nil of epistemology, zero, we wouldn't be able to understand the role of experience and how it is related to practice. Okay, but wait a minute. What is epistemology? Could you give me example of epistemology? Okay, for this start, Yelvi, could you address my questions related to this epistemology? Yelvi, I just want you to define what is epistemology. But don't worry, I'll give you examples of my understandings of epistemology. Alright. Okay, again, when it comes to secular and non-secular knowledge, for secular knowledge, it is understood that knowledge basically is something that is related to what you can see from your senses, what you can understand from your senses. So how many senses that we have now? We have sight as a sense, sense of touch, okay? You can hear, that is your sense as well. Your hearing is a sense. What else? So basically knowledge is something that you can see. So knowledge about the unseen, al-ghaib, for example, is not considered as a knowledge. That's from secular point of view. So the discussions of alam barzakh, munkar wa nakir, yawmul qiyamah is not existence. It's a non-existence for the secular educations. Knowledge of reality about Allah, about Lahu Mahfuz, is all of these are unseen. Ruh is unseen. So it's not considered as a knowledge. Okay, that is the examples of epistemology. So Yelvi, you need to define what is epistemology. Alright? Okay, so I discussed a lot about philosophies, okay, just now. I actually give some examples of philosophies there. So, but now, okay, my question is, how do all of these philosophies related to curriculum then? How do all of these philosophies, okay, that you found, that you read from the book, actually can be related to curriculum? Okay, before you could answer me that questions, okay, let's look into the definitions of curriculum. All the learning which is planned and guided by school, whether it is carried on in groups or individually, inside or outside the school. That is definitions of curriculum. That's very general definitions of curriculum by Kerr, if I'm not mistaken. Alright. So let's say that you have specific philosophy understandings of educations, and how does this relate to curriculum? This is quite difficult to understand, isn't it? Okay, don't worry. Keep this question in your mind first, okay? And then I want you to do this, all right? Okay, I want you to answer these questions. I want you to do this is a kind of a small assignments. Okay, I'm not going to evaluate or assess you based on this, huh? But I just want you to write your own philosophy of education. So that's why I put the question there. What is your philosophy towards education? It can be general. Please write your own philosophy of education. Okay, I want you to write a simple or a page, only a page. I don't want you to write more than that. A page of your own philosophy of education, and you are going to present it to me. Okay, we are going to make a specific 1 hour session for you to actually present your philosophy to me. You don't have to provide it. You don't have to provide a PowerPoint to discuss your philosophy. You just need to submit to my email. Okay, write it to my email, and then I'll read it. Okay, I'm going to set up time for you, for 3 of you, to discuss your philosophy of education. And your philosophy for education should be reflections of your understandings towards education. I just need a page, okay? You don't have to go open a book. Just write what do you understand about educations, and that will be your philosophy of educations. All right. So I know that this evening we should have a classroom, but I think I give you enough assignments for you to answer, for you to think about, right? So let's call it a day then. Then I will arrange a suitable time for you to present the tasks that I already provided to you. Okay, again, uh, all the best. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask me during the presentation time that I'm going to elect a time, and then I'm going to choose a time, suitable time. And then maybe we will discuss about this more, these questions. Alright, let's finish the class by Tasbih Kifarah and Surah Al-Asr. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and thank you very much.